The Valdari fleet emerged from Dimensional Fold 12 light-years from their intended target, and Commander Thalvok felt something he had not experienced in 40 cycles of conquest: anticipation. His command ship, Indomitable Will, hung in the black between stars while sensor data trickled upward from the scout wing. 300 Valdari vessels stretched behind him in perfect battle formation: destroyers, carriers, troop transports carrying 2 million soldiers, the largest invasion force assembled in a generation. "Confirm target designation," Thalvok ordered, his 4 upper arms folded across his chest plate. Subcommander Vex's triangular head inclined toward the display. "System designated XK-742 by the Council, the third planet inhabited. Approximately 9 billion sentients call it Sanctuary. Primitive technology signature. No evidence of faster-than-light capability." Thalvok's mandibles clicked in satisfaction, and the Council's objection. Vex hesitated. Every Valdari in the command chamber had heard the recording. The Galactic Council's emergency session had been unprecedented in its urgency. Ambassador after ambassador had stood before the assembly, each delivering variations of the same warning. "You will not enter that system. The species there is not to be contacted. We are not protecting them from you. We are protecting you from what follows." Thalvok had dismissed the warnings as Council cowardice. The Valdari Empire had conquered 47 systems, assimilated 12 species, and never lost a major engagement. What could primitive beings on a backwater world possibly do to threaten his armada? "The Council's objections are noted and dismissed," Thalvok said, loud enough for every bridge officer to hear. "They fear what they do not understand. We exploit what others fear. Set course for the third planet. Launch fighters for atmospheric entry." The fleet surged forward. Sanctuary's orbital defense network consisted of 23 obsolete satellites and a single monitoring station staffed by 37 humans. They detected the Valdari fleet 3 minutes before it reached weapons range. The station's commander, a woman named Alara Vance, watched the sensor display turn from empty space to solid wall of hostile contacts. She had served on the edge of human space for 12 years, watching, waiting, hoping the galaxy's warnings would hold. They had not held. "Send the signal," she said quietly. Her communications officer looked up, face pale. "All frequencies. All of them, every variation, every language we have. Tell Earth we've been found." The first Valdari weapon struck the station before she finished speaking. Alara felt the deck buck beneath her feet, heard the hull scream as atmosphere bled into vacuum. Around her, her crew began to die. She grabbed the communications console as the station tore apart, fingers finding the manual transmitter. No time for encryption, no time for protocols, just her voice, raw and desperate, screaming into the void. "Sanctuary to Earth, we are under attack. Repeat, Sanctuary is under attack. Unknown enemy fleet, hundreds of vessels we cannot hold." They ignored the Council warnings. They came anyway. Earth, they. The transmission ended. The Valdari fleet descended on Sanctuary like a blade through silk. Their particle cannons carved burning lines across the planet's surface, targeting military installations, communication arrays, population centers. Thalvok watched from orbit as columns of smoke rose from 3 continents. "Resistance estimate?" he asked. Vex studied tactical data. "Minimal. Their surface-to-orbit weapons are ineffective against our shielding. Ground forces report no organized military response." Thalvok's mandibles spread wide, the Valdari expression of triumph. "Begin planetary pacification. Round up population for processing. I want this world pacified within 5 cycles." Below, on Sanctuary's scarred surface, the first Valdari landing craft touched down in the ruins of a coastal city. Soldiers in heavy battle armor emerged, weapons scanning for threats. They found bodies, rubble, silence. No survivors, no prisoners, no one to interrogate. The first trap activated 17 minutes after landing. A civilian transport vehicle, abandoned in the city square, detonated with enough force to vaporize 3 squads. The blast wave cracked building foundations for a kilometer in every direction. In orbit, Thalvok's triumph curdled into confusion. Primitive beings should not know how to build such weapons, should not anticipate his landing zones, should not have every city mysteriously empty of civilians, every military installation a tomb waiting to be opened. His troops kept advancing. The traps kept killing. And somewhere on the planet below, 9 billion humans had vanished into the wilderness of their own world, waiting. Subcommander Vex had stopped reporting casualty figures after the 3rd cycle. The numbers no longer mattered. What mattered was that 2 million Valdari soldiers had landed on Sanctuary, and after 72 standard hours, nearly 400,000 were dead. Not from open battle, from patience. Thalvok paced the command deck of indomitable will, his clawed feet leaving gouges in the metal flooring. Below, on the planet's surface, his invasion force had fragmented into isolated units pursuing ghosts through ruined cities, dense forests, underground tunnel networks that seemed to stretch across entire continents. "Explain it to me again," he said, turning on Vex. "Explain how a species without energy weapons, without shields, without orbital support, is dismantling my army." Vex's triangular face showed something Thalvok had never seen on a Valdari subordinate: fear, not of the humans, of delivering this report. "Their tactics, Commander. We have never encountered anything like them. They do not hold ground. They do not defend positions. They infiltrate, strike, and vanish. Our sensors cannot distinguish civilians from combatants because every human appears to be both." Thalvok's claws curled. "Their technology. Primitive by our standards. Kinetic projectile weapons, explosive charges, chemical propellants. But they use them in ways our tactical models did not predict. They fire from extreme range. They booby-trap their own dead. They have collapsed 3 of our forward operating bases by undermining the geological foundations." A holographic display flickered to life, showing footage from a Valdari helmet camera. Thalvok watched as a squad advanced through what appeared to be an abandoned warehouse district. The humans emerged from nowhere, tunnels beneath the street, holes in walls, from inside sealed containers that should have been empty. They moved fast, faster than Valdari physiology allowed, and they moved together, 8 or 9 individuals working in perfect coordination, each covering angles the others couldn't see. They fired, relocated, fired again. Within 90 seconds, the entire Valdari squad was dead. The humans vanished back into their holes. "Every engagement follows this pattern," Vex said. "We have attempted to negotiate. They do not respond. We have attempted to use fear tactics, public executions, broadcast threats. They appear, unmoved." Thalvok felt the first stirrings of something unfamiliar. Not fear. Concern. Concern that the Council's warnings might have contained more truth than he had assumed. "Patch me through to Galactic Council frequencies," he ordered. "I want to speak with whoever warned us away from this system." The Council's emergency session had not adjourned. Ambassador Nivrak of the Track Assembly sat in the same seat she had occupied for 4 cycles, watching the same hololithic display showing Sanctuary's star system burning. Around her, 73 species representatives had gathered in various states of horror, resignation, and barely concealed terror. "When the Valdari receive our transmission," she said carefully, "what will you tell them?" The ancient Morvani ambassador, whose species had held council membership for 3,000 cycles, made a sound like stones grinding together. "The truth. We will tell them the truth, and then we will watch them learn why we have never visited that system." The transmission request arrived 47 minutes later. Nivrak accepted it, and Thalvok's angular face filled the council chamber, arrogant, demanding, still convinced of his own superiority. "Your warnings," he said without greeting. "Explain them. What are these beings? Why do they fight this way? Why won't they surrender?" The Morvani ambassador leaned forward, his ancient form seeming to absorb light. Commander Thalvok, what do you know of evolutionary biology? Thalvok's mandibles twitched. This is not the time for academic discussion. You asked why they fight this way, the Morvani continued. Unbothered, the answer lies in their world. Earth, their home planet, is classified as a death zone. We have no equivalent term in council languages, but the closest translation would be eternal war environment. Their species evolved not as the dominant predator but as prey. For millions of cycles they were hunted, chased, eaten. So they developed weapons. They developed persistence. Humans do not need to be stronger than their enemies. They do not need to be faster. They simply need to never stop. Their evolutionary strategy is to pursue their target until it collapses from exhaustion, fear, and despair. They have hunted every species on their planet to extinction or domestication. Thalvok's arrogance flickered. They are still primitives. They are watchful, the Morvani said. They have spent their entire existence looking for threats, and when they find a threat, they do not negotiate. They do not retreat. They eliminate. The Council avoided your invasion of Sanctuary not because we feared for humanity. We feared for you, because now that you have attacked them, they will never stop. Not until your entire species has been removed from the galactic equation. The transmission ended. Thalvok stared at the empty holographic display, and for the first time in his career, he considered the possibility that he had made a mistake. Below on Sanctuary, the humans kept fighting. Ambassador Nivrak could not sleep. She had not slept since the Valdari invasion began. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the holographic projections of human combat footage, the way they moved, the way they communicated without words, the way they died without breaking. The council chamber had become a tomb of anxious whispers. Representatives huddled in clusters, arguing about responses that no one had authority to enact. The Valdari had violated council law by attacking a protected system, but the council had no military force capable of stopping them. They had never needed one. The galaxy had maintained peace through mutual fear and economic interdependence for 8,000 cycles. Until now. The humans are transmitting, a junior aide announced, her voice cracking. The chamber fell silent. Every representative turned toward the main display. What appeared was not a military broadcast or diplomatic communication. It was a face, a human female, middle-aged by their standards, with short dark hair and eyes that seemed to look through the display directly into each representative's soul. "My name is Admiral Helena Reyes," she said, her voice calm and measured. "I speak for the human species. We are aware of the attack on Sanctuary. We are aware that the Galactic Council knew of our existence and chose not to contact us." She paused. The silence in the chamber was absolute. "We understand your reasons. You feared us. You were right to fear us. But fear without communication leads to ignorance, and ignorance has led us here. The Valdari believed our silence meant weakness. It did not. Our silence meant we were watching. We were learning. We were waiting to see if the galaxy would leave us alone." The display shifted, showing a tactical map of the Sanctuary system. Thousands of human vessels appeared, not just around Sanctuary but positioned throughout the surrounding star systems. They had been there for cycles, watching, waiting. 24 standard cycles, Admiral Reyes continued. That is how long we will wait before we respond to the Valdari attack. During that time, the Council may attempt to negotiate a peaceful resolution. We will listen, but we will not stop preparing. The transmission ended. The chamber erupted. Nivrak found the Morvani ambassador standing alone at the observation window, watching the spiral arm of the galaxy turn slowly against the dark. "You knew," she said. "You knew how powerful they were." The Morvani made his grinding stone sound. "We suspected. Humanity has been visible to our deep sky observers for 3 centuries. We watched them develop nuclear weapons. We watched them nearly destroy themselves. We watched them pull back from the edge and build something new. And you never thought to warn the Valdari." "We warned everyone, repeatedly. The Valdari chose not to listen. That is their nature, aggressive expansion, dismissal of threats they cannot immediately defeat. It has served them well against weaker species, against humanity. He trailed off. What happens now? Nivrek asked. The Morvani turned to face her, his eyes reflecting starlight. Now we watch. The Valdari believe they are fighting for control of Sanctuary. They are wrong. They are fighting for the survival of their species, and they do not even know it yet. He raised one ancient hand, pointing toward the display showing human fleet positions. Do you understand what you are looking at, Ambassador? Those are not warships, not by human standards. Those are transport vessels, mining ships, colony barges. The humans have not yet deployed their military. They are giving the Valdari 24 cycles to surrender because they do not want to show us what they are capable of. Nivrek felt cold spread through her limbs. What are they capable of? The Morvani was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. Every species in this galaxy achieved faster-than-light travel by harnessing dimensional fold technology. We bend space, slip between the layers of reality, emerge somewhere else. It is efficient, safe, predictable. He gestured at the display. The humans did not develop fold technology. They developed something else, something we do not fully understand. They learned to manipulate gravity, not just generate or negate it, but weaponize it. They learned to create localized time dilation fields. They learned to fold space not for travel, but for destruction. Nivrek's breath caught. That's impossible. So we thought, until our probes detected dimensional anomalies around their home system. The humans are not primitive, Ambassador. They are hiding. They have been hiding for centuries, building weapons we cannot imagine because they looked at the galaxy and saw nothing but threats. She stared at the display, at the thousands of human vessels waiting in the dark, and understood. The Valdari had not attacked a primitive colony. They had poked a sleeping giant in the eye. And the giant was waking up. Commander Thalvok watched the 24-cycle deadline approach with growing desperation. His invasion force had been reduced to half strength. His ships had begun reporting sensor ghosts, human vessels appearing at the edge of the system, watching, then vanishing before weapons could lock. The Council had offered no help. They had delivered exactly one message from the Morvani ambassador containing 3 words: surrender, immediately, please. He had ignored it. Now, with 3 cycles remaining, Vex brought him new intelligence, intercepted human communications, fragmentary and heavily encrypted, but partially decoded. Commander, the humans are not mobilizing their fleet to retake Sanctuary. They are mobilizing to attack our home worlds. Thalvok's blood chilled. Which ones? All of them. The tactical display updated, showing Valdari space, 47 systems, each with its own defense fleet, planetary fortifications, orbital weapons platforms. A network of military power that had never been breached. Against this network, someone had painted human approach vectors. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Each vector ended at a Valdari population center. They intend to hit every system simultaneously, Vex said, his voice trembling. The same moment the deadline expires. No warning, no negotiation. Total simultaneous engagement across our entire territory. That's impossible, Thalvok said. They don't have the ships. They don't have the logistics. No species in galactic history has ever attempted. He stopped. Because the display was updating again. Human ships were emerging from dimensional fold across Valdari space, appearing exactly where the vectors had predicted. Not one wave of reinforcements for Sanctuary. The entire human fleet, positioned to strike every Valdari world at once. And they were not warships. Thalvok's claws dug into his armrests as he studied the vessel configurations. Mining barges, yes, colony ships, freighters, civilian transports converted for military use. They looked like scrap, like desperation, like a species throwing everything it had at a superior enemy because it had no other choice. But the Morvani's words echoed in his mind. They learned to weaponize gravity. Show me their weapon signatures, he ordered. Vex hesitated. Commander, our sensors cannot classify them. They're not energy weapons, not kinetic, not biological. Commander, I don't know what they are. On the display, the first human vessels entered weapons range of Valdari defensive positions. The battle began not with explosions, but with silence. The Valdari defense fleet at the home world of Valdris Prime had 70 capital ships, 200 support vessels, and a planetary defense grid capable of withstanding a sustained siege for months. They had never lost a major engagement. Their commander, Admiral Krell, had been decorated for bravery in 12 campaigns. When the human ships appeared, Krell laughed. "They're sending freighters against us," he broadcast to his bridge crew. "The Council's great terror is a species that fights with cargo haulers." His weapons officer targeted the lead human vessel, a converted ore carrier with mismatched hull plates and obvious battle damage from previous engagements. The targeting computer locked. Krell gave the order to fire. The particle beams crossed the distance between the fleets in less than a second. They passed through the human vessel like it wasn't there. Krell's laughter died. "Report." Weapons officer, the beams. Admiral, they went through. No impact. No shield interaction. It's like the ship wasn't there when the beams arrived. On the display, the human fleet continued its approach. Krell ordered another volley, then another. Every shot passed harmlessly through the enemy formation, detonating against empty space behind them. "They're shifting in and out of real space," his tactical officer said, horror creeping into his voice. "Microfolds, thousands per second. They're not avoiding our fire, they're phasing through it." The human vessels reached weapons range and opened fire. Krell expected missiles, energy beams, kinetic projectiles. What he got was gravity. The first human weapon activated 300 kilometers from his flagship. A field collapsed around one of his destroyers, and the ship simply flattened. Crushed from every direction at once, its hull crumpling like paper, its crew reduced to a thin layer of organic residue across the interior surfaces. Another weapon activated, then another. Each human vessel carried multiple gravity projectors, and each projector could target multiple Valdari ships simultaneously. The defense fleet began dying by the dozen, not exploding, but being compressed into spheres of twisted metal and biological paste. Krell screamed orders. His ships fired back, particle beams and missiles and kinetic rounds, but nothing touched the human vessels. They danced through the fire like ghosts, appearing and disappearing, folding space around themselves to redirect incoming attacks back toward their sources. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it ended, the Valdari defense fleet no longer existed. The human vessels repositioned above Valdris Prime, their weapons aimed at the planet's population centers. Admiral Krell, floating in the wreckage of his flagship, received a single transmission. "Valdari home world. You are now under human protection. Resistance will be met with planetary sterilization. Acknowledge." Krell acknowledged. Thalvok received the reports from Valdris Prime, from every Valdari system simultaneously, and felt his empire crumble around him. 47 worlds, 47 defense fleets, 47 simultaneous engagements, each lasting less than a standard hour. The human fleet had not lost a single vessel, not one. Indomitable Will hung above Sanctuary, surrounded by what remained of his invasion force. Barely 100 ships, most of them damaged, all of them demoralized. Below, on the planet's surface, the human resistance had shifted from guerrilla warfare to open conquest. Valdari ground forces were surrendering in company-sized groups, throwing down weapons and begging for transport off the world that had become their grave. "The Council is hailing us," Vex said. "The Morvani ambassador requests direct communication." "Put him through." The ancient alien's face appeared on the display, and Thalvok saw no triumph there. Only weariness, only the exhaustion of watching a warning go unheeded. "I told you to surrender," the Morvani said. "You told me nothing about." Thalvok stopped, took a breath. "What are these weapons? How do we fight them?" The Morvani shook his head slowly. You don't. Commander, you do not understand what you are facing. The weapons humanity deployed against your defense fleets are not their most advanced technology. They are the weapons they were willing to show us. The weapons they built from mining equipment and colony ship components. Thalvok felt the universe tilt beneath him. What else do they have? You do not want to know. No one in this galaxy wants to know. The humans have been hiding for centuries because they looked at the capabilities of every known species and realized they could destroy us all. Not from malice, from capacity. Their industrial output exceeds the combined production of the Council's top 10 species. Their population, spread across their colony worlds, exceeds the Valdari Empire by a factor of 12. The Morvani leaned closer to his display, his ancient eyes fixing Thalvok in place. They did not want to fight you, Commander. They did not want to fight anyone. They built their weapons in secret, hid their fleet in interstellar space, and hoped the galaxy would leave them alone. You took that choice away from them. Now they are responding, and they will not stop until your ability to threaten them has been permanently eliminated. Thalvok's mandibles clicked once, twice. What do they want? Your unconditional surrender, not just for the invasion of Sanctuary, for the Valdari Empire's entire military capacity. They want your fleet dismantled, your weapons decommissioned, your expansionist government replaced with something that will not try this again. And if we refuse? The Morvani was silent for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of 3,000 cycles of galactic history. Then they will show you what they built when they were really trying. Aboard the human flagship Last Argument, Admiral Helena Reyes stood before a holographic display showing the remaining Valdari fleet around Sanctuary. Her staff had prepared casualty estimates, occupation plans, diplomatic overtures to the Council. She had ignored all of them. Instead, she watched the clock. 3 hours remained on the deadline. Admiral, the Valdari commander, is requesting direct communication. She turned on screen. Thalvok's face appeared, arrogance replaced by something closer to desperation. He looked like a creature who had spent cycles believing himself invincible, only to discover that the universe contained predators far larger than he had imagined. Admiral Reyes, he said, struggling to keep his voice steady, you have destroyed my empire in less than a day. My home world has surrendered. My fleet is broken. What more do you want? Helena walked closer to the display, her face expressionless. I want you to understand something, Commander. You invaded Sanctuary because you believed your technology made you superior. You believed the Council's warnings were cowardice. You believed humans were primitive prey, waiting to be harvested. She paused. You were wrong. And now 2 million of your soldiers are dead. 47 of your worlds have been occupied. Your empire, built over centuries of conquest, has been reduced to rubble in 23 hours. Thalvok's claws scraped his armrests. Then finish it. Destroy my remaining ships. Kill us all. Prove that humans are no different from any other conqueror. Helena's expression shifted, not to anger but to something far more unsettling. Pity. Commander, we are not conquerors. We never wanted to be. What we are is survivors. For our entire existence, we have been hunted, chased, pushed to the edge of extinction, and every time we have survived by being more dangerous than our enemies expected. She gestured at the display showing his shattered fleet. Your mistake was thinking this was a battle for territory or resources. It was never any of those things. It was a test to see if the galaxy had learned to leave us alone. The clock on her display ticked down to 2 hours. Your species has failed that test. Now you will live with the consequences. The Valdari surrender was signed aboard Indomitable Will, in the same command chamber where Thalvok had ordered the invasion. He signed with a stylus that felt heavier than any weapon he had ever carried, his name committing his species to disarmament, territorial reduction, and permanent oversight by human observers. When the document was complete, Admiral Reyes stepped forward. She did not gloat. She did not threaten. She simply looked at Thalvok with those unsettling human eyes and said, Come with me, there's something you need to see. They traveled by shuttle to the human flagship Last Argument, a vessel that had been designed as a colony transport and converted to military service in 6 months. Thalvok walked through corridors that still bore the marks of civilian life, children's drawings taped to bulkheads, faded murals of Earth landscapes, storage rooms filled with personal belongings that had never been unpacked. These were not professional soldiers. These were people who had been pulled from their homes, given weapons, and told to defend their species. He understood then something the Morvani had tried to tell him. Humanity's military was not a separate caste, trained from birth for conquest. It was the entire species, mobilized for survival. Every human was a potential soldier. Every human was a potential weapon. The Admiral led him to a secure briefing room, where a holographic display showed a star chart of the galaxy. She touched a control, and the chart expanded, showing not just the Council's known space, but regions beyond. Regions the Council had never explored. Regions filled with human settlements. There are 300 billion stars in this galaxy, Admiral Reyes said. The Council has explored less than 1% of them. The Valdari Empire claimed 47 systems. You believed this made you dominant. She touched the display again, and the human settlements illuminated, thousands of them, tens of thousands, spread across the galaxy in a pattern so vast it made Thalvok's mind recoil. This is our actual territory, she continued. We have been expanding for centuries, not through conquest, but through colonization. We find empty worlds, we build habitats, we move on. The Council never detected these colonies because we built them to be invisible. We hid our population, our industry, our military capacity. We hid everything. Thalvok's legs buckled. He grabbed a table to stay upright. How many of you are there? Admiral Reyes met his eyes. Enough. The display shifted again, showing military installations. Not the converted civilian vessels he had faced, but true warships. Ships designed from the keel up for combat. Ships with weapons that made the gravity projectors look like children's toys. Ships that could fold space not around their targets but through them, creating dimensional rifts that would swallow entire star systems. We built these because we were afraid, Helena said quietly. We looked at the galaxy and saw nothing but potential enemies. We prepared for war against species that had never threatened us because that is what our history taught us to do. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. She touched the display and the warships faded, replaced by images of human colonies. Children playing in parks, families sharing meals, old people sitting in gardens. This is what we wanted. This is what we built all those weapons to protect, not conquest, not domination, just the right to exist in peace. Thalvok stared at the images, at the laughing children and contented old people, and felt something crack inside his chest. His species had never wanted peace. They had wanted expansion, power, the thrill of conquest. They had looked at the galaxy and seen only things to take. The humans looked at the galaxy and saw only things to protect. You're not going to destroy us, he said, understanding dawning. You could, you have the power, but you're not going to. Admiral Reyes shook her head. No, we're not. We're going to watch you. Every Valdari world will have human observers. Every military installation will be monitored. Every attempt to rebuild your war machine will be met with immediate response. She stepped closer, and for a moment, Thalvok saw past her uniform, past her rank, past the cold exterior of a military commander. He saw what she really was. A mother, a daughter, a person who had seen too much death and wanted never to see more. Commander Thalvok, your species made a terrible mistake when you attacked Sanctuary. But we are not going to make a worse mistake by wiping you out. We are going to give you a chance to become something better than conquerors. I hope you take it. The Galactic Council convened one cycle after the Valdari surrender. Every member species sent their highest-ranking representatives. They came to witness the end of an era and the beginning of something no one could yet name. Admiral Helena Reyes stood before the assembly, alone and unarmed, in a simple civilian dress. Behind her, the holographic display showed the human territory map, the one she had shown Thalvok, with its tens of thousands of colonies spread across the galaxy. When the Valdari attacked Sanctuary, she began, they crossed a line, not a line drawn on a map, a line drawn in the understanding between species, a line that said some actions cannot be forgiven, some choices cannot be undone. The chamber was silent. Even the Morvani ambassador, ancient and stoic, leaned forward to listen. We have chosen to forgive the Valdari, not because they deserve it, because we refuse to become what they were. We refused to become conquerors, even when conquest was within our grasp. We refused to become executioners, even when execution was justified. She touched the display and the map changed, showing not human territory but the territory of every known species. The Council's space, the Valdari remnants, the unclaimed systems between. Humanity will not join the Galactic Council. We will not seek membership in your alliances or participation in your trade networks. We will remain what we have always been, observers, waiting in the dark, watching to see if the galaxy can learn to live in peace. Ambassador Nivrak rose from her seat. Then what will you do? Just watch. Helena smiled, not the predatory smile of a conqueror, but the tired smile of someone who had seen too much. We will guard the line, the one the Valdari crossed. We will ensure no species ever crosses it again, not against us, not against each other. Our fleet will patrol the borders of Council space. Our observers will monitor every aggressive action. Our weapons will remain hidden but ready. She turned to face the assembly, addressing each representative in turn. You warned the Valdari not to attack us. You told them there would be consequences. They did not listen. Now you know we were telling the truth, and now every species in this galaxy knows the same thing. She raised her hand, and the display showed a single image, Earth, seen from orbit, blue and green and achingly beautiful. This is our home. This is what we protect. This is why we built our weapons, hid our colonies, watched you for centuries. Not because we wanted to dominate you, because we wanted to make sure you never had a reason to come for us. The image faded. The chamber remained silent. The galaxy warned the Valdari not to cross that line, Helena said quietly. They did, and humanity responded. Now the line is drawn for everyone to see. Do not cross it. Do not test it. Do not make us show you what else we built. She stepped back from the podium, nodded once to the assembly, and walked out of the chamber. In the cycles that followed, the galaxy changed. The Valdari Empire, humbled and monitored, began a slow transformation. Their military caste, stripped of power, learned new roles: construction, agriculture, administration. Their warrior culture, deprived of external enemies, turned inward, seeking meaning in art and philosophy rather than conquest. The Council established new protocols for interspecies conflict, with human observers present at every negotiation. Wars became rarer. Disputes were settled through diplomacy rather than violence. Species that had fought for centuries found common ground, motivated by the quiet knowledge that someone was watching. And humanity returned to what they had always wanted to be. Parents raised children, farmers grew food, artists created beauty, engineers built wonders, explorers pushed farther into the galaxy, always looking for new worlds to call home, always building new defenses to protect what they had. The fleet remained hidden, but everyone knew it was there. The weapons remained undeployed, but everyone knew what they could do. The line remained undrawn on any map, but every species knew where it was. And no one ever crossed it again. Decades later, on Sanctuary, rebuilt and thriving, an old woman sat on a beach, watching the sun set over an ocean that had once run red with blood. Her name was Alara Vance, and she had been the first human to see the Valdari fleet. Now she watched her grandchildren play in the waves, laughing, splashing, alive in a galaxy that had learned to fear humanity, and in that fear had found peace. A young officer approached, saluted, held out a communication device. "Admiral Reyes sends her regards, ma'am. She wanted you to see this. Ilara took the device. The display showed a star chart, the same one Helena had shown the council but updated. New colonies, new fleets, new lines drawn not by humanity alone but by every species working together. "What am I looking at?" she asked. The officer smiled. "The future, ma'am. A future where the line isn't drawn by fear, a future where it's drawn by hope." Ilara looked at the chart for a long moment. Then she looked at her grandchildren, still playing in the waves, still unaware of how close they had come to never existing at all. "Tell the Admiral," she said quietly, "that the line held." She handed back the device, turned to face the ocean, and watched the sun sink beneath the waves. Behind her, the galaxy kept turning. Above her, the human fleet kept watching. And somewhere in the dark between stars, the weapons remained ready, waiting for a threat that would never come. Because everyone had learned. The line was there, and no one would ever cross it again.